Welcome to the Minnesota Vikings regular season review. Here today, as you see on the top stories, the Minnesota Vikings are really looking to get their first Super Bowl win, and we'll see if we can do that. But first, let's go through this league stats and everyone's team stats along with our own player stats and the awards for the year. As you see, we start off with total yards gained. Vikings are up there at third, actually, but passing is a little bit of a different story. We are more towards the bottom in passing. Actually, we're more in the middle of the pack for passing, which is actually surprising. If you remember, we kind of had those couple weeks where Teddy got hurt and Michael Vick threw for about 30 yards or something like that. But nonetheless, we're at the top of the league in rushing, and we did make the playoffs, which is all we really wanted in the end. Gives us a chance at the Super Bowl, and that's all you can ask for. Points per game, as you see, we're also somewhat in the middle as well. I kind of just show a lot of the teams, but not every single one of them. So I guess if you see your team, go ahead and pause and look at it. If not, I apologize. I probably should have looked at every single team where they were at, just so you guys could see as for yourselves. Here, first downs gained. Let's see where we're at. I think we're also in the middle of the pack here. Offensively, we're in like the top 10 of the league, to be honest. And having a bad passing game like we did until Teddy got back, I'm actually definitely okay with that. Now on the defense for total yards allowed. As you see, we're once again in the middle. I think there's a couple games where we let up quite a few yards and really just didn't have very good defensive games. But then again, I feel like there's a lot of games where we played really well on the defensive side of the ball with forcing turnovers and getting stops and not allowing a whole lot. But really looking at it, we were definitely middle of the pack in almost all these things. Rushing yards allowed, passing yards allowed, total yards allowed. It's actually surprising me because I thought we did a very good job against the pass this year. If you saw last week, Aaron Rodgers struggled. He struggled the first time we played him. Just a bunch of good QBs couldn't throw the ball very well against us. But I believe in the first week, Colin Kaepernick threw the ball really well against us. There's just sometimes where we let bad quarterbacks beat us in the air, and we cannot allow that to happen. Here, I'm going to the turnovers now. Interceptions, as you see, we're third in interceptions. Like I said, we forced a lot of turnovers. I guess we just let up a lot of yards and got stops when we needed to. But now we're in the conversions, and this is actually tells a lot about our team. Third down conversions, when we convert, maybe not the most on the conversions like percentage wise, but in just conversions, no matter the attempts, we were third in the league, which is pretty nice to have, to be honest. That helps a lot to keep drives going and get our offense going and staying on the field, keeping our defense off the field. But here's red zone efficiency now, and we had quite a few red zone trips, 52 as you see. We had the best completion of that, but that's a lot of field goals to go along with it. 84% offensively, and then their penalties. This was a huge story for me because as you see, we only had 44 penalties, and those were 452 yards, and the team after that allowed 632 yards. So that is a huge story for the season. Penalties were not a huge problem, but sometimes those are costly. As you know, we had quite a few times where third down we had a holding call and something that we couldn't afford. But here's turnover difference now. So we only had a 5 turnover difference, but it's always good to be on the positive side of that, and it helps out a lot because that really gets things going for your defense as well. Now we get into our individual stats on the season. As you see, Teddy Bridgewater, he had himself a kind of a shaky first start of the season before he got injured, but when he came back from that broken collarbone, he was really good. He even ended up having more passing touchdowns than interceptions. And if you saw his stats throughout the whole entire season, it really seemed like he was going to have more receptions than touchdowns. That's something you cannot afford to have as a quarterback, and something we really couldn't have from him, to be honest. And then Sean Hill, he stepped in pretty well, but he only played a couple games. And then I needed Mike Vick because I thought it was better to sign someone from free agency, and he helped out a lot too. And I think he even led us to a win or two. But thankfully to that man right there, Adrian Pearson, rushing for over 2,000 yards, and the ground game was just tremendous for us all season. I can really count that as why we got a lot of our wins, because the ground game was amazing. But here, receiving, Kyle Rudolph had himself a pretty good season. You can't take that away from him. But really, I think our best receiver is Stephon Diggs. As you see, he didn't play as many games as Kyle Rudolph. Kyle Rudolph played all, and Stephon Diggs played 12. So if you give him 4 more games where I would have put him in the slot to start out the season, he probably would have been our leading receiver, and I think he will be next year because he had a very good season. But look at this stat. Most sacks allowed, Matt Khalil, 13. We cannot be affording to have that. But then again, I know this game is kind of odd with the sacks allowed, who gets them and things like that. So I don't know if that's all him, but I know he didn't play very well for us throughout the season, and he's got to do a lot better. Now, defensively, most tackles, Robert Bland had a lot of tackles along with Eric Kendricks. Eric Kendricks played tremendous this year in the middle linebacker spot as a rookie. Harrison Smith and Robert Bland were really good safeties to have, and I cannot have asked anything more out of those guys. They were in coverage, they had the run support, and they were doing everything for us. And here's QB sacks. We really split those around very well, and I'm really glad that happened. In interceptions, Xavier Rhodes and Harrison Smith were at the top of that. We had quite a few turnovers, like I said, third in the league in interceptions. That's pretty good for a defense where coming into the season, passing coverage was kind of a question mark, but we really solidified our secondary. There were some veterans and some youngsters that really stepped up and really had a good season defensively. Pass deflections had, I don't even know if they really can. And catches allowed 0 for all our cornerbacks. I guess we didn't allow a catch. That's definitely not right, but I don't know. Madden needs to fix that or something. Either way, we know that we played pretty well over the air, but still things need to improve, and I have some things I want to do in the offseason, which I'll discuss when we get to the offseason. But right now, we should probably focus on the playoffs. And as you see, Blair Walsh, he had a decent season for us kicking the ball. He missed a few field goals I think he should have made, but ultimately he didn't have a bad season, and he did miss an extra point after they moved the extra point marker. As you see in real life, a lot of kickers are missing those. And Jeff Flock, I really have no clue how to tell what's good from a punter, if that net average or anything is good at all. I know downs inside the 20 was not too good. 13, that's alright. I probably could have had a few more. I think that's okay, but I'm not quite sure. And I don't know about touchbacks, but here's a pretty big stat for us this year. Cordarrelle Patterson, 3 kick returns for touchdowns. And if you see when I go to the punt return for touchdowns, he had 1 of those as well. That helps a lot in the return game if he gets going like that and has himself a great season. But here's the MVP of the NFL for my franchise. Phillip Rivers wins that. He had himself a really good season, led them to 13-3. Adrian Peterson 5th. To round out the MVP voting, Andrew Luck went 10th, but the Coach of the Year is Chip Kelly. In real life, he was recently fired, but on this game, they went 13-3 and had themselves a very good season. And here now in the AFC, we're going to go Joe Flacco at the Offensive Player of the Year, which makes 0 sense to me because Phillip Rivers won the MVP, so you'd assume he'd be Offensive Player of the Year, but it does not go to him. And then Denard Robinson rounds it out at 10th. Now, the Defensive Player of the Year is Gerard Mayo, who the Patriots have really had themselves a very good defense as of lately. In previous years, is mostly their offense that dominated, but defensively now they are very good. The Offensive Rookie of the Year is Melvin Gordon. He's a really good running back and probably helped that Chargers team to be 13-3. Amari Cooper had himself a really good year in real life, but the Raiders were only 2-14 this year. And then Defensive Player of the Year is Dante Fowler Jr. If you guys pay attention to the Jaguars' record, 10-6. Is that good enough to make the playoffs? I'll show you guys in a little bit, but that was a very surprising record when I first saw that. And the best quarterback, Phillip Rivers, but doesn't win Offensive Player of the Year. Best running back, Arian Foster. Best wide receiver, Andre Johnson. Evan Mathis, best lineman. Best defensive lineman. And I went through this really fast. I probably should have slowed down a little bit, but you guys can pause if you need to see any more of that. Offensive Player of the Year for the NFC is Adrian Peterson, rushing for over 2,000 yards. Defensive Player of the Year is Danzy Lanza. I don't know how you say that, to be honest. But, yeah, that is the Defensive Player of the Year. As you see, Tyrann Mathieu, I think he's a very good player in real life. Offensive Rookie of the Year goes to Jameis Winston. Probably had to lead his team to a lot. There's Stephon Diggs in 6th for playing 12 games. That's very good. Defensive Rookie of the Year is Eric Kendricks. Had himself a great season. I talked about him earlier. He was just a beast all season long, and he does get Defensive Rookie of the Year. Best QB, Aaron Rodgers, then followed by Tony Romo. Tony Romo hurt all year in real life. There's RG3 at the end, leading the Redskins 8-8. He must have started this year over Kirk Cousins. Best running back, Adrian Peterson, obviously. Best wide receiver, Des Bryant. Best lineman, Zach Martin. Defensive lineman, Ezekiel Anza, 22 sacks. James Laurinaitis, best linebacker, Tyrann Mathieu. Best defensive back. Best kicker, Dan Bailey. And then back to the top of the list. Now here's the season stats for the whole NFL. Leading passing yards, Aaron Rodgers. Had a very good season, as you saw, but he did have too many picks, which I pointed out in Week 17. If you missed that, make sure you go check that game out. It's a very good game playing in the snow at Lambeau Field. Most touchdowns was Phil Rivers, followed by Aaron Rodgers, then Andy Dalton to round out the top 3. And the most interceptions in the league was Aaron Rodgers, followed by Ben Roethlisberger with 22. And then the list just goes on and on. And as you know, Teddy Bridgewater had 15, 16, I can't quite remember, something like that. And most sacked QB was Jay Cutler And as you know, we got to the QB a lot when we played them both times, and that probably caused one of the main reasons why he had so much. But as you see, I'm not going to go completion percentage because there's just some QBs that didn't play as much and would not have that. They'd have 100% completion percentage. But into the running now, as Adrian Peterson rushed for over 2,000 yards. He was a leading rusher in the NFL. Fumbles, there's Randall. I led that one out. And do we have anybody up here at the top? I don't believe so. I guess I don't get very far down. Broken tackles, Adrian Peterson third. He breaks a lot of tackles. Look at the stat. Yards at their first hit, Adrian Peterson first. That's something I really enjoy about having Adrian Peterson. He gets hit once, but that doesn't bring him down. You're going to have multiple people come and take him down. Longest run, I'm just going through it all now. Geno Smith up there, that's kind of surprising me. Here's Adrian Peterson, the 71-yard touchdown run. Jordy Nelson was a leading receiver, followed by Demaryius Thomas, Calvin Johnson, Des Bryant. That's just a few of the top names on the list. There's Ryan Grant. He was, if you remember playing in I don't know if you guys saw it in my Redskins franchise. If you did, go ahead and check that out. I did stop it though because John could not record his games. But anyways, let's go receiving touchdowns. Jordy Nelson, Eddie Royal up there. Eddie Royal scored on us. Dante Moncrief, Dwayne Bowe for the Browns. That one's kind of surprising for the run after catch, which is pretty impressive to have that long. That much run after catch as those people had. I don't believe we had as many because we didn't have a whole lot of long passing plays on the year. But nonetheless, let's go to the defensive side of the ball now. This is just in the tackles, and you'll see, if you want to see more about it, you can just pause it. Tackles for loss, Eric Kendricks led the league in that. I'll show you guys sacks. Like I told you earlier, Ezekiel Anza had a lot of sacks. Like I said, 22. That's an absurd amount, but he did not get the record. Chandler Jones is up there, like I said, the Patriots defense. There's Everson Griffin, had a very good year. Interceptions, Tyrann Mathieu led the league with Prince Amukamara, Ladarius Webb, Leodis McClelvin, and is there any our guys up there? There's Xavier Rose kind of up at the top, but the list just keeps going on after that. Pass deflections, as I said, I don't know if this really goes through as much as I think it should, but there's just some of the top dudes on there. Forced fumbles, Steven Tollock, and I don't think I do any defensive touchdowns. I think we only had one, with a couple of guys had one. I know Anthony Barr picked one up for a touchdown. Everson Griffin did as well. That's just some of the guys that I know did. And I just skipped right through kicking and everything. Here's kick returns. Let's go to touchdowns. And there's Cordarrelle Patterson at the top for 3 kick returns for touchdowns. Punt return for touchdowns. DeMarco Murray had 3, which was pretty impressive. I didn't know he returned punts. But anyways, let's get into the standings now. Here's the standings. The Bengals won their division, followed by the Ravens, and then the Browns. And surprisingly, the Steelers 4-12 at the bottom. I guess Big Ben and Antonio Brown did not have as good of a season as they are in real life. They only went 4-12. The Colts won their division in AFC South, but look at the Jaguars. They were making the playoffs this year. I'm surprised they made it this year. I expect them another year or two. If you guys play some franchises, you know they do a lot in the offseason. I was expecting a couple of years before they were back in the playoffs, but this year, Blake Bortles led them there. Now in the AFC East, there's the Patriots, of course, clinching that division. Not as good as the record as I thought they'd get, but the Jets are followed, along with the Dolphins and the Bills way at the bottom. And then the NFC West, or AFC West, there's the Chargers at the top, and then followed by the Broncos. Chiefs and Raiders didn't have a very good season. They had a pretty good year in real life, but they did not make the playoffs on here like they did in the NFL in real life. But here, the NFC North, the Vikings did win that, and the Packers didn't make the playoffs. We were the only team in the NFC North to make the playoffs. Packers 8-8, everyone else below 500. Now here's the NFC South. There's the Saints winning that division. Not a very good division this year, as you can see. 8-8 wins the division. That's when you know your division was not very good. Falcons 7-9. You probably expect a little bit more out of them, but maybe not as they played in real life for a long stretch of time. NFC East, the Eagles played outstanding, followed by the Cowboys, who played very good, then the Redskins 8-8, and the Giants rounding out their division. The NFC West, the Seahawks played very well like they should, followed by the 49ers, who really, they kept calling Kaepernick at QB in this franchise, and they made the playoffs because of it. And as you see in the wild card round, we do face that 49ers team who we played week 1 Monday Night Football. And if you remember that game, we got blown out on Monday Night Football. 27-3. That's all we mustered was 3 points, and they came in the fourth quarter, and they just took it right at us. 63 passing yards, as you'll see right here. Colin Kaepernick, he had himself a very good day, and Teddy Bridgewater did not have himself a very good day. I believe he is 9 to 17 or something like that. Yeah, it's just not good enough. But I do believe we develop better than that, and I believe that we have a chance to win this game. And also with Adrian Peterson in the backfield, that could help things out a lot. But that is all I have for this episode. When you guys come back next time to Minnesota Vikings franchise, it will be the playoff, the wild card playoffs at TCF Bank Stadium between the 49ers and the Minnesota Vikings. I hope you guys did enjoy. As always, I'm out. Peace.